Thank you, Ben. Hello and welcome back to Soccerex Connected, everyone. My name is Natasha Henry and I'll be your host again this afternoon. I'm joined by an amazing panel, so I'm not going to speak too much. We've got a lot to discuss. I'll let them start by introducing themselves. Over to you, Karina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for just being here today. My name is Karina LeBlanc. I had the honor of playing the best position in the world, goalkeeping for Canada for almost 18 years, 5 World Cups, 2 Olympics, 1 medal. But most importantly, got to connect my passion and my purpose. And I'm head of women's football at Concacaf.
Ludovica.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ludovica Mantovani. I was nominated head of the women's division of the federation. So I'm the president of the women's division. I'm very proud to be with all of you. It's wonderful to see very familiar faces in the football world. I was introduced into this new exciting job coming from experiences in other sports, so tennis and water polo, and also I've been growing a very big tournament involving 600 little girls every year since 1987 to push for equality into football. So thank you so much for having me.
Next up, we have Amanda Duffy.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Amanda Duffy. I'm the Executive Vice President with Orlando Pride. Joined Orlando City Soccer Club earlier this year in February, and in this role leading the business and soccer operations, decisions and direction for the Pride specifically. It's a new position for the club that was created at the end of last year, and the idea at the time, as the club was looking to deepen its investment on the women's side, was to establish this leadership position within the organization, dedicated to the women's business within the larger organization. Excited to be here again, third year with Karina on a panel too, and thank you to everyone who's joining this the panel to watch, and also everyone at Soccerex who's put this together.
And last but not least, definitely not Julie.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm actually unbelievably honored to be on this panel. I feel like I have so much to learn, so we'll see how much talking I do. But I am the president and founder of Angel City, which is the new women's professional soccer team coming to Los Angeles in April of 2022. And although not asked, I will definitely answer. Growth is absolutely the answer to the question of this panel. Obviously, you can tell by Amanda taking a brand new role over at Orlando Pride, and then us coming in and now becoming the 12th expansion team here in the US for the NWSL. So I'm all for growth.
So let's get started. I'll come to you first, Karina. The key question is, do we consolidate and protect, or do we expand?
No, we keep moving forward. I'm with Julie on this one. You know, if I put on my player's hat, we played the game to leave it better than when we got into it. So every single player who plays the game now or who has played wants the momentum to keep going. From the Women's World Cup last year, we saw in 2019, to the next World Cup, which will be bigger, deeper, more teams. We wanted to continue to grow. From our president of Concacaf, Victor Montagliani, football first, one Concacaf. He wants every girl in our region to be able to touch and play the ball. I think one of the most important things is during COVID, we've had this opportunity now to have these one-on-one conversations. And every president and general secretary I'm on the phone with says, how do I grow? How do I take these challenges and make the game better? Last week, we had Jill Ellis, which is the 2-time World Cup champion, come on a call and say, how do we as a confederation grow in the women's game? Hundreds showed up. People are interested. Sponsors are showing up. Players are ready to go and do more. The momentum is moving forward. And as every single woman on this call will tell you, we gotta keep going forward.
I'm seeing lots of nods from the other panelists here. I think we feel like we all agree that it is time for growth and expansion. Amanda, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, first you just feel the energy from Karina every time she talks, and you just want to rally behind that. But it is, and it's not just the on-field product that everyone's looking out for, and how do we keep more girls in the game? How do we bring them up through the levels of football? Definitely expand. I'm 100% behind that, but doing so thoughtfully, doing so with the right people that can put the right investment and the right attention and detail into the on-field and off-field product to ensure that the quality of both on-field and off-field continues to grow and improves while providing the opportunities to all players at all levels. But absolutely, we're in a great period right now. We've seen great growth in women's football over the last several years, and we have I think a bigger and better opportunity in front of us right now than we ever have before.
Ludovica, I was going to ask you, what do you feel have been the biggest issues facing women's football in this weird post-COVID world that we're living in?
Well, actually, we took the opportunity because we are the first one that started this season. So end of August, our Serie A, women's Serie A team started, and we already 3 games into the season, and now our national team could come back winning from Bosnia. So for us, it was exciting to be able to program it. It was obviously very hard to keep up with the protocols, with sanitary protocols. We wanted absolutely to have the same kind of insurances that the men's professional teams had. So we're moving towards professionalism, which has been programmed for season 22-23 in Italy. So we have 2 years to work, and there's no excuse for that. So we're bringing it on, and I think that the media are very excited to be able to have had football played in August. Otherwise, we would have had no football at all. So absolutely difficult, but absolutely doneable, and it's there. It's for us to grasp. And we also went on a different level for referees. We're trying to become more professionals. We started to have licenses for our clubs they are always a little bit harder for them to get into the game. We're asking much more professionalism on the sports side and on the organization side. And this is absolutely due for the little girls to be able to grow up to have, the idols being, exactly at the same level in a few years as their fellow men.
Karina, from a confederation Concacaf position, what have been the biggest challenges for yourself and the organization?
During the pandemic, I think the reality is we have 41 different conversations going on. We have 41 different members associations. We have 41 different situations in terms of government lockdowns. As you can see, the NWSL has been able to find success during this time with new viewers and ratings and stuff like that. But then some of our MAs, the reality is that they haven't been able to get out and get moving. So from a CONCACAF perspective, it was, how do we be innovative in this time? How do we make sure that we keep the conversation moving forward in terms of women's football? We've been able to find a space online, doing a lot of things from our development hat, showing best practices, sharing how we can collectively move forward in the game. In our refereeing department, we've been able to set the star and the line there. I think most importantly, it's not looking at, from a competitive standpoint on the professional level, yes, we haven't been able to hold our competitions as we usually had. But in terms of development, grassroots, bringing everyone together, making women's football still front of mind, we've been able to be successful in that. So the challenges are obviously the calendar, getting people to play, but it's being innovative, being creative, being collaborative, and how do we move forward as a game? And we've been able to find success with that in spite of what's been going on in the pandemic.
I was thinking, women's football, we all talk about clubs and federations and the governing bodies. Amanda, how do you think everyone should be working together to ensure the future of the game?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I think ultimately what we know when you look globally at this is there isn't a right model. There's not a one size fits all model with how these bodies and entities can and should be working together. You have some leagues that have a relationship and support from their FA. You have other leagues that have a relationship and support from their domestic professional men's league counterpart, and you have other leagues that are independent. And ultimately, I think what you have to have in those relationships is just commonality in the goals and objectives going into the relationship itself. And for NWSL, the league, it's enjoyed a longstanding relationship with U.S. Soccer for its first years of its operation, also with Canada Soccer for its first 8 years of operation. And for the first 3 years, NWSL also had a relationship with the Mexican Football Association. And while Mexico and Canada have provided support for the player side only, U.S. Soccer has done players and administrative support as well. And again, it was, the commonality of the goals of the importance of a stable domestic women's professional soccer league, and the importance of investment in player development. So that model has worked in NWSL, and as NWSL is now maturing into its next phase of operation, and you're seeing multi-year media agreements and strongly positioned with an expansion pipeline, rising player compensation, the need and desire for support from the Canada Soccer and U.S. Soccer is something that needs to and will evolve from where we are today. And so it's for NWSL, it was important in the early years. We'll see that evolve further from what it already has in the past few years. And I think it's finding that right model within each of the countries is something it's important to explore.
We always talk about the money and the media when it comes to women's football. So Julie, from someone who's coming into the game at a different point from others, how important do you feel the increased commercial investment is going to be for the women's game?
I mean, it's going to make the difference between everybody knowing more than 4 different U.S. women's national team players' names to knowing dozens of national team players' names. I mean, the game is about awareness, and the world gets really excited about women's soccer every 4 years, and it's all we talk about, and it's all we watch, and it's all the merch that we want to buy, assuming we can find it, right? But after the 4 years are over, the players continue, and they have built these incredible platforms. I mean, they've truly transcended, the sports icon to be a cultural icon. And we are so lucky to have these players as platforms, and you're starting to see it as they've moved into the WSL. I mean, people are following Tobin Heath and Alex Morgan, probably more so than the clubs that they're joining, right? And so we have this sort of incredible moment where these players have such platforms and such visibility, where we as sort of teams and leagues need to lean into them and use that to help build awareness for these incredible clubs that we're building and to the leagues that we're playing in. And so that's a big part of what we're doing. We talk about combining passion and purpose and profitability. At the end of the day, it's a business. And for a business to work, it takes the league, the club, and most importantly, the fans. The fans have to know the games are being played so that they know they can buy tickets, so that then they can show up, so that they can buy merch. And as that sort of flywheel starts, the teams then can invest more in marketing and merchandising, in the compensation for the players. And as those 2 tidal waves rise, then you get the media partner saying, okay, there's 200,000, 300,000, 500,000, 600 million viewers, right? This is really worth something. And we can extract more value out of media, and we can extract more value out of brands. So we have to commercialize it for the business to grow. We think, being the global sport and truly having some of the best players in the world, at least as part of the U.S. women's national team and part as the NWSL, we have a real opportunity. So at least with Angel City, our intent is to invest and to grow awareness and to use our platform and the platform of our founding investors to draw more awareness, to get more fans, to sort of help all tides rise.
Can I just add to that, just to what Julie said about everybody playing a role? I think it's so important that anybody who's on this call, like no matter what role you have, you are invested in women's football and you can be part of that solution and growing the game. Like Julie said, it's clubs, it's the players, it's investors, it's fans, but most importantly, whatever role you are, even if you're just a mom, just being like, oh, I want my daughter, you play a role in growing women's football. And I think that's important for us to make sure we hit home that everyone is part of the investment in moving the game forward.
So we've got a really good question from Carol Howell from the US Virgin Islands Soccer Federation. I'm guessing her weather's a lot nicer than mine is here in London. I'll come to you, Karina. Carol says, how do I innovatively get girls involved in a game that is not popular where I live?
Ooh, it's one of our most beautiful challenges. It's one of our objectives with Concacaf W is changing perceptions, building sustainable foundations, and growing participation. And in each of our different countries or MAs, there's challenges. There's parents who feel that maybe football isn't for girls. There's so many cultural things holding back. I think it's looking uniquely at what the conversation is in your country and showing the possibilities of the game. Showing that World Cups, yes, that happens for a small percentage, but literally this game can change a young woman. You empower a girl, you empower a community. They can become the next CEO, the next executive vice president, the next anything, doctor. But what football teaches these young girls is a game changer in their lives. And I think it's more about telling that conversation, not just the World Cup, but like Julie said, like using you have to see it to believe it. We have to show the power of our game, not only for ourselves in this generation, but the next generation, to see a Jamaican women's football team, see women who look like them, see women who do things from a small island like them, and see the capacity and where they can go because of the game. The game's made me, it's made every single woman on this call. Women talk about the power of sports and what it helps them be the woman they're meant to be in this earth. And I think that's the conversation we have, and we do it through football.
So we've got another question from the floor, actually. How do we ensure that the investment we're seeing at the top level of the game is filtering down to the pyramid? Ludovica, if you'd like to answer that one.
Well, obviously, you know, we now are working on two bases. One is the grassroots, which has to grow. The girls, as we're saying, have to be able to play football. They need to know how, when, and where to play. And then we have the top clubs, which are now investing a lot. It goes one with the other. Having the division inside the federation, where we obviously also have the youth sector, helps us, you know, to be sure that all the fundings we give out will obviously be distributed for the game. And the game starts with the little girls to go up to the big players. And I think that right now it's changing in Italy. Culturally, some people might think that football still is only for boys. Well, it's very wrong. Girls love playing football. They have so much fun when they score. I see them, they feel empowered. And that's something which is passing by. The World Cup did this. You know, it gave us a momentum where the mothers are changing inside the houses and where the little girls are taking their mothers and fathers to go play football. Whilst little boys are usually taken by their parents, it's the little girls which take their mothers out in the morning. And that's what's incredible. A girl that wants to play football now has the ability to talk, you know, and to express herself. And the schools are growing, and it's up to us to be able to go on all the territories. So our clubs, which are now all over Italy, because we have now 2 major clubs in the south, it's very important for, you know, for the visibility of the sport, for the little girls to grow up, and also to be sure, as you say, that all the investment will be, first of all, obviously for the top elite clubs, but we will invest them in infrastructures in the schools so that the game can start from an early year on, so to be able to grow then in top players.
Amanda, do you feel that women's football has to share the male audience, or is there possibly a new fan base that they can attract? And is this the perfect time to do that?
Yeah, I think we already know from the data that we have in the United States and through NWSL that there's a different audience. And from what we know with clubs in Orlando in particular is one we can look at, but others that share an ownership with an MLS team and an NWSL team, the crossover of your fans is anywhere from 10 to 30% is what we've seen. So we absolutely know that there's a different fan that's attracted to the women's game and is going to support the women's game. And I think what we have to do is really lean into that in a unique way, and kind of goes back to, in essence, the business of women's football hasn't been fully figured out yet. And we don't necessarily have the specifics or the data that say what works, what sells, or beyond the high profile women's national team players that Julie mentioned earlier, you know, what's driving that interest. So I think from a women's game, we still have so much to learn, while we have some foundational knowledge to say that there is going to be a new fan that's going to watch the women's game. There's still such a bigger audience. And So many segments that I think we need to tap into in women's soccer to expand the fan base.
Yeah, and Natasha, yeah, if I could just add one thing to that, I think what's also sort of really unique as we think about investment and growing the fan base is that we are fortunate in that we don't have to build stadiums, right? In the cities that we are in, there are already stadiums. So we can take that money that would alternatively go to building infrastructure and putting it into the team and putting it into the clubs and putting it into the league, and allows us to, you know, go out and find that audience. And there's no better way to find audiences today than on social and through digital. And so it's really about, you know, refocusing our capital expenditures, where we want to put our money, and being able to target exactly who's excited about soccer, and then let them know that these leagues exist, these women exist, these teams exist.
Obviously with COVID, the tournaments have been delayed now. Do we think that's actually going to be beneficial to the women's game? If I come to you first, Ludovica.
Well, we're actually trying to take it to the next level for the clubs. You know, we have now 2 years. For us, it's a matter of organizing ourselves. We are talking now of the new commercial and audio-visitive interests for the clubs. In 2 years, we should bring professionalism in our Serie A. So actually, we think that this time can really lead us in becoming every week to be able to watch football. Every week we try to give a better spectacle. So we are really looking out for the cameras, we're looking out for the infrastructure, because in Italy we have a problem also in men's football for infrastructure. So we need to focus that the game, that the excitement, that everything that is going on is going to be exciting to be able to watch. And then once, you know, we will go back to the stadiums, our fan base will have grown. But right now for us, you know, we're able to show all our games every weekend, because in OTT we're working on every weekend. We have all our games of Serie A. 2 games are going on, you know, on Sky. So we're actually very excited, because it makes us grow, and we need that time to grow. So I don't think that for us it's that bad to have postponed. Obviously, for the national team, Milena Bartolini will have to work, you know, on a 2-year instead of a 1-year, you know, team to grow up and to choose the right athletes. But for us, it actually is working out with all our plans, which are trying to go on with the strategy we're building from grassroots to top level clubs.
You know, if I could come to you with that question.
Sorry?
Do you feel that the delayed tournaments will aid the growth of the women's game, giving them more chance to build interest ahead of the tournaments?
I think what you've seen, especially in our region, NWSL has found a way to be successful. Liga MX found a way to be successful in terms of viewership. Costa Rica, yes. I think the challenge moving forward is just going to be, there's going to be a lot of things consolidated into 2021 and 2022 because the tournaments have been shifted. But again, the whole conversation of this is that it's a beautiful opportunity and a beautiful challenge for all of us to step up and own what we do, find a way to make women's football part of the conversation in a crazy schedule. You know, we found successes. We've almost had this time to pause, to rethink, and then move forward with a bigger bang. And especially being on this call with all these amazing women, I know we have the right people at the helm to take us there. So it's been bittersweet, but I still think we're going to be able to accomplish so much more now because of this break and pause.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. I'd like to thank Julie, Amanda, Ludovica, and Karina. It's been a great conversation, and you can continue it on social media with #SoccerexConnected. If we go back to Ben in the studio.